Hello and welcome back. Charlotte here with a video for Skull and Cross Buns, and today I'm playing with alcohol inks and foiling to create a kind of jungly looking background. Here you can see the colours of alcohol inks I'm going to be using, and I'm using some Simon Says stamp paper that's designed for using with your alcohol inks. I've just placed it on a scrap of cardboard to protect my surface, and I also have my craft mat underneath that as a bit of extra protection. So I start by adding the alcohol ink blending solution all over my paper, and then I'm just going to start adding in the colours. First I put Dandelion, which is a nice yellow, and then I added Pistachio and Stream, and I'm just kind of dripping it all over the page. Some people like to use a straw to blow their ink to move it around when working with alcohol inks. I decided to use a little tool that's actually designed for cleaning dust off of my camera, but worked very well for just to squeeze and blow the ink around a bit. And I'm just going to keep adding layers of the ink and using my little squeezy lemon thing to move the ink around. And I am wearing gloves here because I don't want to stain my fingers, and also it's not that good for you to get the ink on your fingers. I do add a bit more of the alcohol ink blending solution over the top and give another puff with my lemon to move things around a bit more, and I basically just keep going until I'm happy with how it looks. And of course it will move a bit as it dries as well, so the design will be quite organic and you can't necessarily predict how it's going to end up looking. I let the ink dry just for a couple of minutes, and then I'm bringing in some foil to add over the top. You don't want to leave the ink to dry too long, otherwise it won't pick up the foil, but if you don't let it dry long enough, then either you'll pick up too much foil or it'll just be too wet to pick up any at all. So you want it to get to the state where there are some tacky areas. And then you just need to press your foil over the top, rub it down so that it will stick to the tacky areas, and then carefully peel it back up. I did then go back in with the foil and just dab at a few of the areas that looked tacky to see if I could get any more of the foil off. And this foil I'm using is Gina Jelly Bean Green foil, which I thought went nicely with the colours I was using. Once I was happy with how that looked, I will go and trim the panel down. I obviously don't need this whole piece, but I will keep what is left to use on a future project. So I trim it down so it's 10.5 centimeters tall, which is the height of my card base. I'm doing an A6 card base. This is metric size card rather than American size card, but it's very similar in size, and you can just adjust your panel accordingly if you're making it for an American A2 card. And then I'll trim off the edges to make it narrower than my card base, because I want the card base to be visible on either side. I also wanted to border the edges of the panel with some black cardstock. To do this, I adhered the black cardstock to the back of my panel. I used a bigger piece than I needed, and then I just trimmed it down to the narrow width that I wanted. This is a good way to get very narrow strips without them being fiddly to adhere into place. So I'll just do that for both sides, making sure they're both even. I think I did 2 millimeters on either side. And then I'm also going to use another snippet of black card for my sentiment. The sentiment I chose to use is from the Skull and Cross Buns Quirky sentiment stamp set, and I chose to use the Happy Birthday. I'm going to be heat embossing it in white onto my black snippet, and I kept my snippet quite long as I want it to go across the panel and be longer than the panel. I have treated this with my anti-static powder tool, so I'll just use a dry cloth to wipe away the excess powder once I've melted the embossing powder. Then I'm going to add my alcohol ink and foil panel to my card base. I have the card base pressed up into the edge of my MISTI so that I can use that as a guide to make sure I get my panel completely straight. I find this is a very good way to help me get my panels into place, because otherwise I have a tendency to adhere things down wonky, which is really annoying. But I find that using the MISTI in this way is very helpful in that regard. Then I'm just going to use my T-square ruler to help me line up my sentiment, which is popped up on foam tape. And actually, if I'd been thinking ahead, I wouldn't have popped this up on foam tape, because I am adding a embellishment, one of the embellishments from Skull and Cross Buns again. This is the red parrot, and because it's slightly see-through, I can't add any foam tape behind it. So as I popped up the sentiment panel, I can now only really adhere the parrot to where it overlaps the black strip. If I'd adhered the sentiment strip directly to the card base, I would have been able to adhere the whole parrot to the card base. So I decided to use Glossy Accents as my adhesive because Glossy Accents is nice and strong, and I thought it was sensible to have a strong adhesive, seeing as I'm only able to use this small area to adhere it down. And then I'll just put an acrylic block on top to hold it in place whilst it dries. And that completes my card. I hope you enjoyed this video. I really had fun making this background with the alcohol inks and the foiling. It's a fun technique which I haven't played with as much as I would like, but I think I would definitely do it more in future. And I really like the kind of abstract jungly appearance that it gave. I think it works really nicely with the red parrot. I hope you enjoyed this video and maybe learnt something new. I'd love to hear if you've used this technique before and if you have any tricks or tips of how to get the best out of it. If you did like this video, please press the like button, which is down below, and if you didn't like it, then the dislike button is right next to it. If you'd like to see some more videos from me, there are a couple on screen now that you might enjoy, and otherwise if you press the subscribe button on screen and the notification button down below, you will be alerted every time I post a new video so that you don't miss any of them. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again next time. Bye!